Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 2 of CIN603, and in this lecture we'll be looking at analyzing business case. The objectives for lecture 2 are as such: explain the concept of a business case and how a business case affects an IT project. Describe the strategic planning process and why it is important to the IT team. 3. Conduct a SWOT analysis and describe the 4 factors involved. 4. Explain the purpose of a mission statement. Explain how the SDLC serves as a framework for systems development. Define operational, technical, economic, and schedule feasibility. Describe the steps and the end product of a preliminary investigation. Introduction. The term business case refers to the reasons or justifications for a proposal. A strong business case suggests that the company should pursue the alternative above other options because it would be in the firm's best interest to do so. System development typically starts with a system request followed by a preliminary investigation, which includes a feasibility study. A business case provides justification for undertaking a project, program, or portfolio. It evaluates the benefits, the costs, and risks of all alternative options and provides a rationale for the preferred solution. Strategic planning, a framework for IT systems development. Strategic planning overview, SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for, or the abbreviation SWOT stand for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what are our strengths and how can we use them to achieve our business goal? These are some of the questions that a system analysis would ask. What are our weaknesses and how can we reduce or eliminate them? What are our opportunities and how do we plan to take care and advantage of them? What are our threats and how can we assess, manage, and respond to the possible risks? Strategic planning starts with a management review called a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis usually starts with a broad overview. So when you look at the word strategic, what do you mean by the term strategic? So the term strategic means something in terms of long-term, future, forecasting, or forecasted. When looked at in terms of years, we're looking at something around 3 to 5 years. That would be a good example of a goal set for that number of years, 3 to 5 years. Strategic planning, a framework for IT systems development. The role of the IT department in project evaluation, management leadership, and information technology are linked closely, and remarkable changes have occurred in both areas. Today, systems development is much more team-oriented. Although team-oriented development is the norm, some companies see the role of the IT department as a gatekeeper. Today, system development is much more team-oriented. New approaches to system development, such as joint application development or JAD, and rapid application development or RAD, typically involve a group of users, managers, and IT staff working together right from the start of a project. Main reasons for systems project. First one is improved service. System requests are often aimed at improving service to customers or users within the company. Better performance. The current system might not meet performance requirements. Support for new products and services. New products and services often require new types or levels of IT support. More information. The system might produce information that is inefficient, incomplete, or unable to support the company's changing information needs. Stronger controls. A system must have effective controls to ensure that data is secure and accurate. Some common security controls include passwords, various levels of user access, and encryption, or coding of data to keep it safe from unauthorized users. And finally, reduce cost. The current system could be expensive to operate or maintain as a result of technical problems, design weaknesses, or the changing demands of the business. Factors that affect systems projects. Generally, the factors are divided into two. First of all, if you look at internal, that means the factors that are within the organization, strategic plan. So the long-term goal of an organization has changed. Top managers. Top managers has decided to make some changes to the current information system and replace it with a new one. User requests. The current user may find it difficult or inefficient to basically work with the current information system. Information technology department. A change in the IT infrastructure or a change in the IT department or overall a decision by the IT department has been made to change the system. Existing data and systems. So the existing data and systems may be of a legacy system and is not able to incorporate well with the current processes. Therefore, a systems project comes in place. Technology, suppliers, customers, competitors, the economy or government. These are external factors. Technology, as we all know, technology is forever changing. So the change in technology may bring in a change in the system. Supplier, customers. So supplier and customers, their demand has led to a change in the information system. The competitors, due to the rising competing edge and competitive advantages, the organization decides to involve themselves in a system project. The economy and the government also plays a key role in terms of affecting systems project. For example, if we look at the current structure of the government, a vet control information system needs to be in place in all organizations. So this may lead to a change in the information system. Information systems projects, project management. If the project is approved, it can be planned, scheduled, monitored, and controlled and reported upon. Individual analyst or IT staff member often handle small projects, but companies usually designate a project manager to coordinate the overall effort for complex projects. Evaluation of systems requests. Systems Review Committee or a Computer Resources Committee evaluation systems requests. System requests forms. A properly designed form streamlines the request process and ensures consistency. Occasionally, a situation will arise that requires an immediate response. System requests forms goes through the Systems Review Committee. The committee scrutinizes the system requests form and evaluates the request and decides whether to proceed or to decline. When a system request form is received, a systems analyst or IT manager examines it to determine what IT resources are required for the preliminary investigation. A designated person or a committee then decides whether to proceed with the preliminary investigation or not. Systems review committees. Most large companies use a systems review committee to evaluate systems requests. Many small companies rely on one person to evaluate system requests instead of a committee. The goal is to evaluate the request and set priorities. So like mentioned earlier, all systems requests goes through the system request committee. However, when talking about small organizations, it becomes primarily difficult to have a committee. Therefore, one person may be able to evaluate the system request form. Overview of feasibility. A systems request must pass several tests called a feasibility study to see whether it is worthwhile to proceed further. Operational feasibility depends on several vital issues. So for a feasibility study to take place, what it simply means that the system request needs to pass several compulsory tests, one of it being operational feasibility. Operational feasibility means that a proposed system will be used effectively after it has been developed. If users have difficulty with the new system, it will not produce the expected benefits. Technical feasibility refers to the technical resources needed to develop, purchase, install, or operate the system. This may be hardware or software requirements. Economic feasibility generally caters for the total cost of ownership, tangible and intangible benefits, means that the projected benefits of the project or the proposed system outweigh the estimated costs, usually considered the total cost of ownership, which includes ongoing support and maintenance costs, as well as acquisition costs. Scheduled feasibility means that a project can be implemented in an acceptable timeframe. When accessing scheduled feasibility, a systems analyst must consider the interaction between time and costs. Evaluating feasibility. The first step in evaluating feasibility is to identify and weed out system requests that are not feasible, ones that do not make sense, ones that may incur overly costly routes. Even if the request is feasible, it might not be necessary. Feasibility analysis is an ongoing task that must be performed throughout the system's development process. Factors that affect priority. There are few questions that a system analyst or the systems request committee must ask when carrying out feasibility studies and setting out priorities. Will the proposed system reduce costs? Where, when, how much? Will the system increase revenue for the company? Where, when, how much? Will the system project result in more information or produce better results? How? Are the results measurable? Will the system serve customers better? Will the system serve the organization better? Can the project be implemented in a reasonable time period? How long will the results last? Are the necessary financial, human, and technical resources available? Whenever possible, the analysis should evaluate a proposed project based on tangible costs and benefits that represent actual or approximate dollar values. These are some questions generally dealt by the system analysis or by the systems review committee. Preliminary investigation overview. So once this system request forms goes through or passes through, preliminary investigation needs to be done. So when conducting preliminary investigation, first of all, there must be adequate interaction between managers and users. Let people know about the investigation and explain your role. Employee attitudes and reactions are important and must be considered. Be careful in the use of the word problem. Question users about additional capability they would like to have. Now, one of the major reasons why users are involved in the preliminary investigation stage is because these are the people who generally tend to use the system at a much more in-depth level. Therefore, any issues, any reactions, any attitudes, any problems, or any capabilities that they would want to have in a system must be considered vitally. Planning the preliminary investigation, that is to understand the problem. During a preliminary investigation, a systems analysis typically follows a series of steps. The exact procedure depends on the nature of the request, the size of the project, and the degree of agency. Step 2, define project scope and constraints. Project scope. In project management, scope is the defined features and functions of a product or the scope of work needed to finish a project. Scope involves getting information required to start a project, including the features the product needs to meet its stakeholders' requirements. Project creep, also known as scope creep. Scope creep in project management refers to changes, continuous or uncontrolled growth in the project's scope at any point in time after the project begins. This can occur when the scope of a project is not properly defined, documented, or controlled. It is generally considered harmful for the organization and harmful for the successful delivery of the project. Constraint is basically a limitation or a restriction in the project. 3, perform fact-finding. Fact-finding involves various techniques. Depending on what information is needed to investigate the system request, fact-finding consumes several hours, days, or weeks. Analyze organizational charts. Obtain organization or organizational charts to understand how the department functions and identify individuals you want to interview or to communicate with. Fact-finding techniques. Some of the techniques involve conducting interviews. And the interviews may be conducted with the users, managers, or to the top hierarchy in an organization. Review documentation. These documentations may be on the day-to-day business process or the previous system that was implemented in the organization. Observe operation. Observation plays a key role. By observing individuals and users of the system within the organization, many key decisions could be made. Conduct a user survey. Conducting a user survey allows sufficient information to be gathered. This information can be adequately analyzed, it can be evaluated, and can be synthesized to make important and varied decisions at various levels within the organization. So these would be some of the fact-finding techniques that is concluded in a preliminary investigation. Analyze project usability, cost, benefit, and schedule data. Before you can evaluate feasibility, you must analyze this data carefully. What information must you obtain, and how will you gather and analyze the information? The term analyze in terms of gathering information is a very critical term. When we say analyze, it means you would go around looking at the trends. You could go around scrutinizing the information to derive some form of knowledge. What sources of information will you use, and what difficulties will you encounter in obtaining information? Will you conduct interviews? How many people will you interview? How much time will you need to meet the people and summarize their responses? Will you conduct a survey? Who will be involved? How much time will it take people to complete it? How much time will it take to prepare it and tabulate the results? How much will it cost to analyze the information gathered and to prepare a report with findings and recommendations? So this is how you will go around analyzing project usability, the cost, the benefit, and the schedule data. Step 5 is to evaluate feasibility. When you're evaluating feasibility, you will start by reviewing the answers to the questions you have asked in step 4. And you will go around looking at the measures to derive operational feasibility, technical feasibility, economic feasibility, and schedule feasibility. Present results and recommendations to management. The final task in the preliminary investigation is to prepare a report to the management. The format of the preliminary investigation report varies from one company to the other. So, when results are prepared for the management, it's most likely and it's most suitable to say to hit the hammer on the head of the nail. In other words, what you will be doing is basically you'll be noting down and disseminating key information only. And the information can be presented and recommended to the management in terms of a format laid out in the slide: introduction, systems request summary, findings, and the case for action. And within the report, you will also list down project roles, time and cost estimates, expected benefits, and the appendix. Lecture summary. Strategic planning allows a company to examine its purpose, vision, and values and develops a mission statement, which leads to goals, objectives, day-to-day operations, and business results that affect company stakeholders. Systems projects are initiated to improve performance, provide more information, reduce costs, strengthen controls, or provide better service. During the preliminary investigation, the analysis evaluates the system's request and determines whether the project is feasible from an economic, technical, operational, and schedule standpoint. Analysis evaluates systems requests on the basis of the expected costs and benefits, both tangible and intangible. The steps in the preliminary investigation are to understand the problem or opportunity, define the project scope and constraints, perform fact-finding, analyze project usability, cost, benefit, and schedule data, evaluate feasibility, and present results and recommendations to the management. The last task in a preliminary investigation is to prepare a report to the management. The report must include an estimate of time, staffing requirements, costs, benefits, and expected results for the next phase of the system development lifecycle. This concludes your lecture for lecture 2. I hope this has brought some level of understanding in terms of how would you go around creating a business case for a particular project. It generally starts with a systems request, evaluated by a systems request committee, and then the conducting of a preliminary investigation. So to conduct a preliminary investigation, certain steps must be done. First of all, the problem or the opportunity needs to be understood. Scope needs to be defined, constraint needs to be defined, and possible scope creep should also be thought of. Then fact-finding must be performed. After that, analyze project usability, cost, benefits, and schedule data. Moreover, evaluate feasibility, and finally, present the results to the management, giving in a verdict of whether to continue or not to continue with the proposed project. Thank you.